Well, hospital porters, pride and dignity. Stop the New World Order. Welcome to HPANWO TV. Just look at this. I was telling you before about the tea and coffee. Well, this is our dinner. We're going to be eating here later on. Anyway, look at that. Very nice. Just have a sit down over here, actually, if they don't mind me checking it out. Now, again, it's a bit pushed for the schedule, but I'm not on the chaise along now. I'm on this settee, but just saw Winston Keech. Now, he was very interesting because he's a guy who films UFOs. He's very sophisticated UFO setup. He has thermal imaging, he has infrared, image intensifying, he does time lapse and things like that. And he's spoken at Probe. He's this little short guy, a little short chubby guy, balding. You know, looks like Danny DeVito, but he's a bit of a ladies' man, I hear. I mean, he's true. I mean, the girls love him. I tell you, it's often like that, isn't it? It's the blokes you don't expect who the women love. Not the big, tall, handsome, chunky guys, but the sort of little, short, chubby, balding ones. You know, there's something about them, isn't there? They often seem. It's so often those kind of blokes, isn't it? They get all the girls. Anyway, he talked about the various RFID chips and the dangers. You know, because there's little small ones like Verichip, which is the size of a grain of rice. But there's also things like the Mu chip, which is it's minute. It's 4% of a millimetre square. It's tiny. And now, really, the thing is, when RFID chips are that small, you know, how do you keep them out of yourself? But I mean, he went through the history of these things and spoke about how, you know, there's the little ones like that have a range of a few centimetres to a couple of inches. But you know, what about secret technology? Because he talked about this guy called William Poelek, who was at the Disclosure Project conference. Now, the Disclosure Project press conference in 2001. Now, he died in 2007. And Stephen Greer released an interview with him. You know, but he talked about something called smart metal. So we're looking at really, we're talking about black budget technology. When you talk about RFID chips, you have to talk about black budget technology. Now, you know, he talked a little bit about the Nazis, because the Nazis are key to all this, because, you know, they were extremely technically advanced. I mean, they were, you know, being a brutal, tyrannical regime, but they had access to all this technology. And where did it come from? They designed it, and then they and after the war, it was moved into the hands of the superpowers during the Cold War, and it all connected with the Falkland Islands and the Falklands War, which David Griffin talked about. If you look at my report for the AMMACH Conference, it's all links in the description box, as per usual. Now, he said an awful lot of stuff as well about how, you know, there was a connection between the Nazis and the Falklands War, because the Nazis were in Antarctica. This is very, very odd, because I met a man once, an old man, who said that he'd fought in a war in Antarctica in 1947 to 1948. Because, you know, there was a 6-month military campaign by the British in Antarctica, and they were after the Nazis. And this was after the war had ended, World War II. Officially ended in 1945, but apparently 2 years later, here's this man I met fighting this war in Antarctica. The article Jack of the Antarctic, which I wrote, tells you all about that. He also went into some of the stuff David Griffin talked about, and, you know, more of what David Griffin talked about, rather, because I'm quite interested to know what David Griffin's going to make of all this, actually, because he's just researched the Falkland War, you know, and it all relates to that. So I'm not exactly sure what's. Let me just check the rest of my notes. I'm sorry, this is all a bit rushed. I haven't got much time. I'll talk a little bit more later on, but Wynn's an interesting guy. I mean, Ellis knows him, and he's an interesting bloke, and you should look him up. He's very well known in the UFO community. He was involved in this. He was involved in a BBC documentary as well. They had, you know, I Want to Believe in UFOs, and it was all right, actually. It wasn't that bad, but very bad piece of casting. They had Danny Dyer was the sort of like subject, and you must have seen that one where Danny Dyer, the actor, goes to the Gilliland Ranch, you know. Cool, blimey, I just saw a fucking UFO. Yeah. All right, see you later. Hospital porters, pride and dignity, stop the New World Order.